My dear friends, throughout my many decades of ministry, I have had the privilege of counseling and knowing some of the wealthiest and most successful people in the world. Presidents, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and millionaires from every walk of life have sat across from me, sharing their hearts, their struggles, and their secrets to success. What I discovered may surprise you. True success, the kind that brings lasting fulfillment and makes a positive impact on the world, is not about luck, connections, or even natural talent. It's about developing the right habits, the right character, and the right relationship with both money and purpose. Today, I want to share with you the success habits that I've observed in genuine millionaires, not those who simply accumulated wealth, but those who built something meaningful and lasting. These are men and women who understood that true riches go far beyond bank accounts, and that real success is measured not just by what you gain, but by what you give and the legacy you leave behind. These habits are not just for those born into privilege or blessed with extraordinary circumstances. They are principles that anyone can adopt, regardless of their starting point. I've seen people rise from poverty to prosperity, from failure to phenomenal success, simply by embracing these time-tested practices. But let me be clear from the beginning, the pursuit of wealth should never be an end in itself. Money is a tool, a means to serve others and fulfill your God-given purpose. The millionaires I've known who found true happiness were those who understood this fundamental truth and built their success on a foundation of integrity, service, and genuine care for others. Chapter 1. The foundation of character. The first habit I observed in truly successful millionaires is their unwavering commitment to character. They understood that sustainable success must be built on a foundation of integrity, honesty, and moral strength. I remember counseling a prominent businessman who had built a multi-million-dollar empire. When I asked him about the secret to his success, he didn't talk about strategies or techniques. He said, "Billy, I decided early in my career that I would rather fail with integrity than succeed without it. That decision shaped every choice I made, and paradoxically, it became the very thing that made me successful." Character-based success creates trust, and trust is the currency of all meaningful relationships, whether in business, family, or community. When people know they can count on you to do what you say, to honor your commitments, and to treat them fairly, they naturally want to work with you, invest with you, and support your endeavors. The millionaires I've known made character non-negotiable. They kept their word even when it cost them money. They told the truth even when it was uncomfortable. They took responsibility for their mistakes and learned from them rather than making excuses. This commitment to character also gave them inner peace and confidence. They could sleep well at night knowing that their success was built on solid ground, not shifting sand. They didn't have to worry about their past catching up with them or their reputation being destroyed by hidden compromises. If you want to build lasting wealth and success, start with character. Make integrity your cornerstone. Choose honesty over profit, truth over convenience, and doing right over taking shortcuts. This foundation will support everything else you build. Chapter 2. The discipline of delayed gratification. One of the most consistent habits I observed among millionaires was their ability to delay gratification. While others spent their money as soon as they earned it, these successful individuals consistently chose to invest in their future rather than indulge in immediate pleasures. This discipline showed up in many ways. They drove older cars while their income was building so they could invest the difference. They lived in modest homes below their means so they could accumulate capital. They chose to reinvest profits back into their businesses rather than upgrading their lifestyle prematurely. But delayed gratification went beyond just money. They delayed the gratification of ease, choosing to work hard when others were relaxing. They delayed the gratification of entertainment, choosing to learn and grow when others were being entertained. They delayed the gratification of comfort, choosing to take calculated risks when others played it safe. I watched one young entrepreneur turn down countless invitations to social events during his first 5 years in business. While his friends were out enjoying themselves, he was studying, planning, and building his company. Today, he has the financial freedom to enjoy any experience he chooses, while many of his peers are still struggling financially. This habit of delayed gratification is really about having a long-term perspective. Millionaires think in decades, not days. They understand that small sacrifices today can lead to enormous rewards tomorrow. They're willing to plant trees whose shade they may not enjoy for years to come. The key to developing this discipline is to have a compelling vision of your future that's more attractive than present pleasures. When you can clearly see the life you're building toward, it becomes easier to say no to temporary temptations. Chapter 3. The habit of continuous learning. Every millionaire I've known was a voracious learner. They understood that in a rapidly changing world, those who stop learning stop earning. They made education and personal development a lifelong commitment, not something that ended with formal schooling. They read constantly books, industry publications, research reports, and anything that could give them an edge in their field. But they didn't just read for entertainment, they read strategically, focusing on material that could improve their skills, expand their knowledge, or open new opportunities. Many of them had mentors, people who had achieved what they wanted to achieve and were willing to share their wisdom. They sought out these relationships actively, understanding that learning from someone else's experience was much more efficient than learning everything through trial and error. They also learned from failure, both their own and others. Instead of being discouraged by setbacks, they studied them, extracted the lessons, and applied those lessons to future endeavors. They understood that failure wasn't the opposite of success, it was a stepping stone to success. One millionaire entrepreneur told me, "Billy, I spend at least 1 hour every day learning something new that could benefit my business or my life." That's 365 hours a year, equivalent to more than 9 weeks of full-time study. Most people wonder why I stay ahead of the competition, but the answer is simple: I outlearned them. They also invested in formal education when it served their purposes, taking courses, attending seminars, hiring coaches, and participating in programs that could accelerate their growth. They saw education not as an expense but as the highest yielding investment they could make. Make learning a daily habit. Read books in your field and related areas. Listen to educational podcasts during your commute. Attend seminars and workshops. Find mentors who can guide your development. The knowledge and skills you acquire will compound over time and become one of your greatest assets. Chapter 40. The power of persistent action. Millionaires don't just have good ideas, they act on them persistently until they succeed. They understand that success is not about having perfect plans, it's about taking consistent action and adjusting course as you learn. I've watched many people with brilliant ideas fail to achieve success because they waited for perfect conditions, more resources, or absolute certainty before taking action. Meanwhile, the millionaires I knew started with what they had, where they were, and figured out the rest as they went along. They also understood that persistence doesn't mean doing the same thing over and over if it's not working. It means persistently working toward your goal while being flexible about your methods. When one approach didn't work, they tried another. When they hit obstacles, they found ways around them, over them, or through them. One successful businessman shared with me his philosophy: "Billy, I may not be the smartest person in the room, and I may not have the most resources, but I guarantee you I will outwork and outlast my competition. While they're making excuses, I'm making progress." This persistence was fueled by an unshakable belief in their vision and their ability to achieve it. They had developed what I call success consciousness, a deep inner conviction that they would find a way to succeed no matter what obstacles they faced. They also understood that success is a process, not an event. They were willing to work for years to build something meaningful rather than looking for quick fixes or overnight success. They measured progress in years and decades, not days and weeks. The key to developing persistent action is to connect your daily activities to your long-term vision. When you can see how today's work contributes to tomorrow's success, it becomes easier to maintain momentum through difficult times. Chapter 5. The art of strategic thinking. Successful millionaires are strategic thinkers. They don't just work hard, they work smart. They understand the principle of leverage, how to get maximum results from minimum effort by focusing on high-impact activities. They regularly step back from the day-to-day operations of their businesses and lives to think strategically about where they were going and how they could get there most efficiently. They asked themselves questions like, what are the few things that would make the biggest difference in my success? What opportunities am I missing? What threats should I be preparing for? They were excellent at prioritization. They focused their time, energy, and resources on activities that produced the greatest return. They said no to good opportunities so they could say yes to great ones. They understood that saying yes to everything is the same as saying no to the things that matter most. Many of them used what I call strategic time blocks, regular periods set aside specifically for thinking, planning, and strategizing. During these times, they weren't responding to emails, taking calls, or handling urgent matters. They were thinking about the big picture and making decisions that would shape their future. They also thought systematically about their businesses and investments. They looked for ways to create systems that could operate without their constant involvement, generating passive income and freeing them to focus on higher-level activities. One millionaire explained it to me this way, Billy, there are 3 types of people in business. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. Strategic thinking is what separates the first group from the other 2. Develop the habit of strategic thinking. Set aside regular time for planning and reflection. Always be asking yourself, what's the highest and best use of my time right now? What opportunities am I not seeing? How can I work smarter, not just harder? Chapter 6C, the discipline of financial management. Without exception, every millionaire I've known was disciplined about managing their money. They tracked their income and expenses carefully, lived below their means, and made strategic decisions about how to deploy their capital for maximum growth. They understood the difference between assets and liabilities, between productive and non-productive expenses. They consistently chose to acquire assets, things that put money in their pocket, rather than liabilities that took money out of their pocket. Many of them automated their financial discipline. They set up systems to automatically save and invest a percentage of their income before they had a chance to spend it. They treated saving and investing like non-negotiable bills that had to be paid first. They also understood the power of compound interest and gave it time to work. They started investing early and consistently, understanding that time was their greatest ally in building wealth. They didn't try to time the market or chase get-rich-quick schemes. They built wealth steadily and systematically over time. But their financial discipline went beyond personal money management. In their businesses, they were careful about cash flow, profit margins, and return on investment. They made financial decisions based on data and analysis, not emotions or impulses. One successful entrepreneur told me, Billy, I learned early that it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep and how effectively you put that money to work for you. I've seen people make millions and lose it all because they never learned to manage money properly. They also understood the importance of multiple income streams. They didn't rely on a single source of income, but created multiple ways for money to flow into their lives. This provided security and accelerated their wealth-building process. Start tracking every dollar that comes in and goes out. Create a budget and stick to it. Automate your savings and investments. Focus on acquiring assets that generate income. Learn about investing and let compound interest work for you over time. Chapter 70, the practice of generous service. Here's something that might surprise you. Every truly fulfilled millionaire I've known was generous. They understood that true wealth comes not from accumulating money, but from creating value for others. They built their success by solving problems, meeting needs, and making other people's lives better. They approached business not with the question, how can I make money? But with, how can I serve people a way that's so valuable they're happy to pay me for it? This shift in perspective changed everything about how they operated. They were generous with their time, sharing their knowledge and experience with others who were earlier in their journey. They understood that teaching others and helping them succeed didn't diminish their own success, it multiplied it. They were generous with their resources, supporting causes they believed in and helping those in need. But their generosity wasn't just about writing checks, it was about using their influence, connections, and expertise to make a positive difference in the world. I remember one millionaire businessman who told me, Billy, I discovered that the more I focused on giving value to others, the more value came back to me. It wasn't planned or calculated, it was just a natural law of life. When you genuinely care about helping others succeed, your own success becomes inevitable. This generous spirit also created a network of relationships that became invaluable over time. People who had been helped or served by these millionaires became advocates, partners, customers, and friends. Their generosity created a positive reputation that opened doors and created opportunities. But perhaps most importantly, their generous service gave their wealth meaning and purpose. They weren't just accumulating money, they were building something that mattered, something that made the world a better place. Focus on serving others and solving problems. Look for ways to add value to every interaction. Be generous with your knowledge, time, and resources. Build your success on a foundation of service, and you'll create wealth that's both sustainable and fulfilling. Chapter 80, The Strength of Relationships. Millionaires understand that success is a team sport. They invest heavily in building and maintaining strong relationships with family, friends, colleagues, customers, and partners. They know that opportunities come through people, and success is achieved with people. They were intentional about networking, not in a superficial or manipulative way, but by genuinely caring about others and looking for ways to be helpful. They understood that the best networkers are those who give first and give generously without expecting immediate returns. They also chose their associations carefully. They spent time with people who inspired them, challenged them, and shared their values. They understood that you become like the people you spend the most time with, so they were selective about their inner circle. In their businesses, they focused on building teams of talented, committed people. They understood that they could only accomplish so much by themselves, but with the right team, they could achieve extraordinary things. They invested in finding, training, and retaining good people. They also maintained strong relationships with their customers and clients. They understood that it's much easier and more profitable to keep existing customers happy than to constantly find new ones. They focused on providing exceptional value and service, creating customers for life. One successful entrepreneur explained it to me, Billy, I've realized that every significant opportunity in my life came through a relationship. Every major deal, every key hire, every important partnership, they all came through people I knew and who knew me. Investing in relationships is the highest yield investment you can make. They were also skilled communicators. They could articulate their vision clearly, inspire others to join their cause, and negotiate effectively. They understood that success often depends on your ability to influence and persuade others. Invest in relationships. Be genuinely interested in other people. Look for ways to help others succeed. Build a strong team around you. Communicate clearly and effectively. Remember that your network is your net worth, but only if you approach it with the right heart and motives. Chapter 90. The Courage of Calculated Risk. Millionaires are not reckless gamblers, but they are calculated risk takers. They understand that playing it safe is often the riskiest strategy of all, and that significant rewards require significant risks. They study opportunities carefully, gathering as much information as possible before making decisions. They consider both the potential upside and the potential downside. They ask tough questions and do their due diligence. But once they've done their homework, they're willing to act decisively. They also understand that the biggest risk is often not taking any risk at all. They've seen too many people miss life-changing opportunities because they were paralyzed by fear or waiting for perfect certainty that never comes. When they do take risks, they're strategic about it. They don't bet everything on one opportunity. They diversify their risks across multiple ventures, investments, or income streams. They understand the principle of portfolio management. Some investments will fail, but the ones that succeed will more than make up for the losses. They also have what I call intelligent optimism. They believe in their ability to succeed, but they also plan for setbacks and challenges. They have contingency plans and exit strategies. They hope for the best but prepare for difficulties. One millionaire investor told me, Billy, I learned that the graveyard of good intentions is filled with people who played it too safe. They had good ideas, saw good opportunities, but never had the courage to act on them. Meanwhile, Fortunes were made by people who were willing to step out in faith and take calculated risks. They also understood that failure is often the tuition you pay for success. They weren't afraid of failure because they knew it was temporary and educational. They failed fast, learned quickly, and applied those lessons to their next endeavor. Develop the courage to take calculated risks. Do your homework, but don't get paralyzed by analysis. Diversify your risks, learn from failures, and keep moving forward. Remember that the biggest risk is often not taking any risk at all. Chapter 20. The vision of long-term thinking. Millionaires think differently about time. While most people focus on immediate gratification and short-term results, successful millionaires think in terms of decades and generations. They make decisions today based on where they want to be 10, 20, or even 50 years from now. This long-term perspective influences every aspect of their lives. They choose careers and businesses that can build value over time rather than just provide immediate income. They make investments that may not pay off for years but have the potential for enormous long-term returns. They also think about legacy, what they want to leave behind for their children, their community, and the world. This gives their work deeper meaning and motivates them to build something lasting rather than just something profitable. Their long-term thinking also makes them more patient and persistent. They understand that meaningful success takes time, and they're willing to work for years to achieve their vision. They don't get discouraged by temporary setbacks because they know they're playing a long game. One successful businessman shared with me his philosophy. Billy, most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. I've learned to think like a farmer: plant seeds, tend them carefully, and trust that harvest time will come. This long perspective also makes them better decision makers. When faced with choices, they ask themselves, how will this decision affect me 10 years from now? What kind of person will this choice help me become? What kind of legacy am I building? They also understand the power of compound growth, not just in investments, but in skills, relationships. They know that small, consistent efforts compound over time to create extraordinary results. Develop a long-term perspective. Think about where you want to be in 10, 20, and 50 years. Make decisions based on your long-term vision, not just immediate circumstances. Be patient with the process and trust that consistent effort will compound over time. Chapter 11. The habit of goal setting and planning. Every millionaire I've known was a goal setter and a planner. They didn't just dream about success, they created detailed plans for achieving it. They broke down their big vision into specific, measurable, achievable goals with clear deadlines. They wrote their goals down, reviewed them regularly, and adjusted them as circumstances changed. They understood that a goal not written down is just a wish, and a goal without a deadline is just a dream. But their planning went beyond just setting goals. They created detailed action plans that outlined exactly what steps they needed to take to achieve their objectives. They identified potential obstacles and developed strategies for overcoming them. They also tracked their progress religiously. They had systems for measuring their advancement toward their goals and held themselves accountable to their plans. When they fell behind, they analyzed why and made necessary adjustments. Many of them had what I call goal achievement systems, regular processes for setting, reviewing, and adjusting their goals. Some did this annually, some quarterly, some monthly. The key was consistency and intentionality. One successful entrepreneur explained to me, Billy, goals are like the GPS in your car. They tell you where you're going and help you navigate there efficiently. Without clear goals, you're just driving around hoping you'll end up somewhere good. They also understood the importance of having both short-term and long-term goals. The short-term goals provided motivation and momentum, while the long-term goals provided direction and meaning. Their goals weren't just about money or business success. They set goals for their health, relationships, personal development, and contribution to others. They understood that true success requires balance and growth in all areas of life. Set clear, specific, measurable goals with deadlines. Write them down and review them regularly. Create detailed action plans for achieving your objectives. Track your progress and adjust your plans as needed. Remember that goals are the bridge between dreams and reality. Chapter 12. The practice of innovation and adaptability. The millionaires I've known were constantly innovating and adapting. They understood that in a rapidly changing world, what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. They stayed ahead of the curve by constantly looking for better ways to do things. They were early adopters of new technologies, new methods, and new ideas that could give them a competitive advantage. But they weren't just chasing every new trend. They were strategic about which innovations to embrace based on their potential impact on their goals. They also encouraged innovation in their organizations. They created cultures where people felt safe to suggest new ideas, experiment with new approaches, and even fail occasionally in the pursuit of breakthrough improvements. When faced with challenges or setbacks, they didn't just try harder doing the same things. They stepped back and asked, is there a completely different way to approach this problem? What if we tried something that's never been done before? They also stayed close to their customers and markets, constantly listening for changing needs, emerging problems, and new opportunities. They understood that innovation without market relevance is just expensive creativity. One successful businessman told me, "Billy, I learned that you can't solve today's problems with yesterday's thinking. The world changes too fast for that. You have to constantly evolve, constantly innovate, constantly adapt, or you'll become irrelevant." They also understood that innovation often comes from combining existing ideas in new ways rather than creating something completely original. They were students of other industries, other cultures, and other ways of thinking, always looking for ideas they could adapt to their own situation. Stay curious and open to new ideas. Be willing to experiment and try new approaches. Listen to your customers and watch for changing trends. Don't get too attached to old ways of doing things. Remember that the only constant is change, and your ability to adapt determines your survival and success. Chapter 13: The Foundation of Health and Energy. Something I noticed about successful millionaires was their attention to their physical and mental health. They understood that sustained success requires sustained energy, and energy comes from taking care of your body and mind. They exercised regularly, not just for appearance, but for energy, mental clarity, and stress management. They understood that physical fitness directly correlates with mental performance and business success. They also paid attention to their nutrition, understanding that what they put into their bodies affected their energy levels, mood, and cognitive function throughout the day. They saw healthy eating not as a restriction but as fuel for high performance. They managed stress effectively through various practices: meditation, prayer, hobbies, vacations, and other activities that help them recharge and maintain perspective. They understood that chronic stress is not just unhealthy, it's also unproductive. Many of them had regular sleep schedules and prioritized getting adequate rest. They understood that sleep is when the body repairs itself and the mind processes information, and that sleep deprivation severely impairs decision-making and performance. They also took care of their mental and emotional health. They had outlets for their emotions, whether through relationships, counseling, journaling, or other practices. They understood that emotional intelligence is just as important as intellectual intelligence for success. One successful entrepreneur shared with me, "Billy, I learned that my body and mind are my most important business assets. If I don't take care of them, everything else suffers. My health is not separate from my success, it's the foundation of my success." They also understood the importance of balance. They worked hard, but they also made time for family, friends, hobbies, and activities that brought them joy and fulfillment outside of work. Take care of your physical and mental health, exercise regularly, eat well, get adequate sleep, and manage stress effectively. Understand that your health is not separate from your success, it's the foundation upon which all other success is built. Chapter 14: The Power of Faith and Purpose. Perhaps the most important characteristic I observed in truly successful millionaires was their sense of purpose that went beyond just making money. They had a deep conviction that they were meant to accomplish something meaningful with their lives, and this sense of purpose gave them extraordinary motivation and resilience. They understood that money is a tool, not a destination. They saw wealth as a means to achieve their larger purpose, whether that was providing for their family, creating jobs for others, solving important problems, or making a positive impact on their community or the world. This sense of purpose gave them the strength to persevere through difficult times when others might have given up. When the work got hard, when setbacks occurred, when critics spoke against them, their sense of purpose kept them moving forward. They also had what I call abundance thinking. They believed that there was enough success, wealth, and opportunity for everyone, and that helping others succeed didn't diminish their own success. This mindset led them to be more collaborative, more generous, and ultimately more successful. Many of them had a strong spiritual foundation that provided guidance, comfort, and perspective throughout their journey. They understood that true success includes not just material prosperity, but also spiritual fulfillment and peace of mind. They also practiced gratitude regularly, recognizing that their success was not entirely of their own making, but was also the result of opportunities, relationships, and blessings that had come their way. This gratitude kept them humble and motivated them to give back. One millionaire businessman summarized it beautifully. "Billy, I discovered that when you have a purpose bigger than yourself, success becomes not just about what you can get, but about what you can give. And paradoxically, the more focused I became on giving and serving, the more successful I became in every area of life." Find your deeper purpose beyond just making money. Connect your work to something meaningful that serves others. Develop an abundance mindset. Cultivate gratitude for your opportunities and blessings. Remember that true success includes not just material prosperity, but also spiritual fulfillment and contribution to others. Conclusion: your journey to success, my friends. These are the habits I've observed in millionaires who have achieved not just financial success, but true fulfillment and lasting impact. They are not born with special talents or advantages that you don't have. What sets them apart is their commitment to developing the right habits, the right character, and the right perspective on success. Success is not a destination you arrive at. It's a journey you take daily through the choices you make and the habits you develop. Every day, you have the opportunity to think like a millionaire, act like a millionaire, and develop the character of someone who creates lasting value in the world. But remember, the goal is not just to become wealthy. The goal is to become the kind of person who creates wealth through service, builds success through integrity, and uses prosperity to make a positive difference in the world. You have everything within you right now to begin this journey. You have the ability to develop character, delay gratification, learn continuously, take action persistently, think strategically, manage money wisely, serve others generously, build relationships meaningfully, take calculated risks courageously, think long-term, set goals effectively, innovate constantly, maintain your health, and live with purpose. The question is not whether you can develop these habits. The question is whether you will. Success is available to anyone willing to pay the price in discipline, persistence, and character development. Your journey to millionaire success begins today, with the very next choice you make. Choose to develop these habits. Choose to become the person who naturally creates success. Choose to build wealth that serves not just yourself but others as well. The world needs what you have to offer. The world needs the problems you can solve, the value you can create, and the positive impact you can make. Your success is not just about you, it's about everyone whose life will be better because you chose to develop these millionaire success habits. Begin today. Start where you are with what you have. Take the first step, then the next, then the next. Your future self will thank you for the decision you make right now to embrace these life-changing habits. Success is not just possible for you, it's inevitable if you commit to developing these habits and living by these principles. Your millionaire mindset and your abundant future begin now.